most utilized sources take thousands of years for formation. Energy resources are limited. India has approximately 1% of world's energy resources, but it has 16% of world population. Most of these energy sources we use cannot be reused or renewed. Non-renewable energy sources constitute 80% of fuel use. It is said our energy resources may last only for another 40 years or so. There's an old Indian saying, the earth, water, and the air are not a gift to us from our parents, but a loan from our children. A very thoughtful thought indeed. Hence, we have to make energy conservation a habit. I am sure that this webinar will have a great impact on our energy consumption pattern. A few guidelines before we start this webinar. We have put all participants on mute except for our panelists to avoid disturbance and background noises. Participants are requested to reserve their questions for the Q&A session that will happen at the end of the webinar. During the session, questions can be posted on the chat box. Feedback link will be provided in the chat box towards the end of the session. Now let me talk about the college which is organizing this webinar. MQI College of Management is a flagship institution among MQI group of institutions, offering 2-year full-time MBA program affiliated to Bangalore City University. MCM, as it is called, is managed by a group of committed, compassionate, and philanthropic people. MCM has been awarded the most promising management college in Karnataka in the year 2019. We are honored to have amongst us Dr. V. Prabhudev, Director, MCM, MQI College of Management. Dr. V. Prabhudev, a renowned and prominent name among academicians, needs no introduction. Sir has more than 4 decades of academic and administrative experience. Sir has authored many books and written and published several research papers. Dr. V. Prabhudev has inaugurated and chaired technical sessions at several national and international conferences. Sir is the recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award for his contribution in the field of education. We are really honored to have you, sir. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Our speakers for this national webinar are Mr. V.S. Bhaskar and J. Prakash Rao. Now let me just give a brief introduction of our speakers. Mr. V.S. Bhaskar is a graduate in Mr. V.S. Bhaskar is a postgraduate in chemical engineering from IIT Delhi. Sir has worked with Indian Oil Corporation at Baroda and Guwahati refineries and at head office situated at New Delhi for a total of 15 years. Sir has also worked for a decade with a private company dealing with fuel additives, which led to increase in efficiency of equipment like boilers and furnaces. In 2003, Mr. V.S. Bhaskar started a consultancy company dealing with energy conservation products for industry like cooling towers, online filters for cooling water circuits, furnace coating to improve heat retention, and renewable energy fuels like briquettes. Mr. V.S. Bhaskar has been an external faculty for PCRA since 2007, spreading the awareness of energy conservation in the industry and to the youth. Sir has conducted numerous such programs to the senior management staff as well as workmen of industries and to the students of several universities. We have another speaker for today, that is Mr. J. Prakash Rao. Mr. J. Prakash Rao is an empaneled faculty of Petroleum Conservation Research Association, which is under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Sir has spoken on energy conservation and energy efficient motors at several forums organized by PCRA, including International Copper Promotion Council of India, Institute of Engineers, Engineers Staff College of India, Manipal Institute of Technology, and several educational and large and medium scale industries. Sir has retired from Siemens Limited, a German electrical engineering company, from their motors division. Sir was responsible during his tenure at Siemens for sales and revenue and also developing business requirements, that is organizing business developments efforts for generating revenue for the organization. So without any further ado, I request our director, Dr. V. Prabhudev sir, to inaugurate this workshop with his address.
Thank you. Good morning. What a beautiful day to have a wonderful webinar, a very meaningful webinar like this. Today we are going to deliberate upon the most crucial resource, energy. And energy is required for all of us. Energy is required by all living beings for survival and growth. Similarly, energy is required for survival and growth of economies. It could be oil, gas, electricity, fuel, motive power. These constitute important, integral element in the energy ecosystem consisting of economy, environment, and society. There's going to be serious mismatch between energy consumption and energy production. So much so, countries are going to compete intensely with each other for the common ecosystem, probably resulting in very serious disequilibrium. And in the opening remark, Professor Samad was hinting upon the possible danger, which is looming large. The problems are staring in your eyes. Energy crisis related problems are going to stare us in our eyes. It could be, see, the wisdom says, unless we save today, we don't survive tomorrow. Same thing is applicable for energy. Unless we save energy today, we don't survive tomorrow. And energy wastage. Today's wastage is tomorrow's shortage. That is another very important point of wisdom here. And energy conserved is energy produced. This important webinar is conducted under the joint auspices of MQA College of Management and Petroleum Conservation and Research Association, which is under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. I should thank here Mr. V.S. Bhaskar Rao for his initiative. He, along with his colleague, Mr. J. Prakash Rao, have joined hands with us, and we are very, very grateful to them. And I'm sure this webinar, we are going to deliberate upon important issues, important ramification. It could be wastage of energy, it could be economic use of energy, conservation of energy, energy efficiency, which are very, very deep and profound. And we are very overwhelmed with the participation. We have participants from practically every state in India. We have participants from abroad. Therefore, this webinar has assumed more importance in terms of participation, especially in the backdrop of the importance of the topic. I'm very happy to inaugurate this webinar. I'm sure all the participants will have a huge takeaway at the end of this webinar. I thank Mr. Prakash Rao and Mr. Bhaskar for their wonderful initiative. I thank the participants. I thank the management of this college for their guidance and help as usual. I thank my team here, and it is now I'm overing the mic to Mr. Bhaskar Rao and Mr. Prakash Rao. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Professor Prabhudev and Professor Samad for their introduction and the inauguration of this session. Before I go to my PowerPoint presentation, I will briefly tell about the formation and the aim of this organization called Petroleum Conservation Research Association. This is an association under Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Most of you would not have heard. They are not so much doing a sort of a marketing of themselves, because the thought is to help the society and the nation in combating the problem of this energy availability and longevity. Like Professor Samath said, we have a stock of only about 1% or 2% max, but we have the population of about 16-17%. So like Dr. Prabhudev said, it is a big mismatch between the availability and the... So government is doing so many things to match this mismatch, but at the cost of some other things. Which are those things which I will, that points I will just highlight. Before that, I will just talk briefly about PCRA. See, in 1973, there was a war in Middle East between Egypt and Israel. So that disturbed the entire petroleum distribution across the world, because that OPEC was formed. Oil producers and exporting countries were formed, and they increased the cost of oil nearly 3 times. And every country in the world was depending on Middle East for their supply, because Middle East was stocking about 2/3 of the world petroleum with them. And during that war, they started dictating terms. So India was also affected. India was importing about 70% at that time. Today, we are importing 80 to 85%. So 70% we were importing, and the price of that increased 3 times. So how will Indian government meet this import bills? So what they did, they put a 10% cut on the supplies to the industries and organized transport sector. Because the other areas like the unorganized transport sector and the domestic usage and the agriculture, we cannot implement this ban just like that, because they can't cope up with it. Whereas organized and the industrial sectors can meet it with help of some systematic approach to it and all. So the 10% ban was imposed. Now, how will the industries and the organized transport sector, like the public, like the state transport corporations and all, maintain the same amount of output with 90% of the input? So they approached the government and said that you please help us in guiding us how to do it. So an action group was formed to study whether the same amount of output can be achieved. About a couple of years, they studied different industries under each vertical. Like they picked up one pharma industry, one steel industry, one aluminum industry, one food industry, like it, sampling industries up and studied whether it is possible. And see, they found that with simple methods, disciplined use of energy, not 10%, but 20% was the potential of saving. So this prompted the government to take it up seriously. Why not we form an organization itself so that this can promote this and we can save this energy to the extent of 20%, not with any big methods and all. Just simple activities like I told you, discipline and some small efforts from the participating people. That is how this PCRA was formed in late 70s. And it will be really a sort of a paradox that this PCI, all the oil companies like Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum, ONGC, MRPL, all oil companies under the government has come together and formed this association, and they are promoting it. Generally, an organization which manufactures something spends advertising these products and asking the public to consume more of it. Like you take soap, you take biscuits, you take any textiles or anything. It says use my product more so that their turnover becomes more. Whereas in this case, it is the opposite. You note that petroleum companies, IOC, HPC, BPC, they are all manufacturing the petroleum products and they are supplying it to the public. And they have formed this association and telling that don't overuse it. Use it only to the requirement. So it is a sort of a negative advertisement for the products, but positive advertisement for the concept of the social this thing. Okay. Having said this, let us see how to do it now. Okay. And I will go to the share screen and start sharing my presentation. Can someone confirm if my slide is visible? Good morning slide.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The screen is visible, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
we
sir.
will start it now. So
Yes.
We are going to talk about conservation. Now, any topic for it to be understood, if you are able to answer 5 questions like what, where, how, when, and why, then it becomes easy for you to understand the subject and implement it. Now, to start with, what is conservation? For this, I'll have to explain briefly about a term called output by input. Most of the technical people and scientific people know that output by input is efficiency. Now, the idea of any organization or any group is to increase this factor, output by input. This can either be done by increasing the output, keeping the input constant, or by keeping the output constant and reducing the input. The first one, that is increasing the output by keeping the input constant, is called improvement in energy efficiency. Okay, improvement in the productivity, improvement in the performance, that one. The second option, which I said that you have to get the same output with reduced input. That is called conservation. That is, your output should not be affected. You have to give the same service, same product, same quality, everything must be same. But your input is coming down because of the availability and other factors, which we will discuss as we go along. That is the what part of conservation. Next, you will see where it can be applied. It can be applied in all the walks of life, like industries, transport, domestic, agriculture, commercial. Wherever you see, there is a possibility of applying it. So that is the where part of it. Next comes how part of it. That one, Mr. Prakash Rao will give some guides of how conservation can be done. Next, we go to the when part of it. When part of it and why part of it, I will explain in my talk. Okay, when it has to be conserved is that actually it has to be applied always. But during my talk, you will come to know that there will be a stage where, yes, we need not think so much about conservation. That is in the future. But how to reach that future, we will discuss. Now, this slide shows that when the why is clear, then the how becomes easy. See, Mr. Prakash was going to tell how you can conserve in different streams of life. So if you are able to why, then it will be easily can. Okay, now for understanding this, we have to know a little about the energy scenario and the security concerns which are there in front of us for it. So I will start with the global energy scenario. Okay, now all of you are in your room. What, just look around. What you see is that you are using electricity as an energy, be it your fan, your air conditioner, or there are so many gadgets, the television, the monitor, the computers which you are using, everything uses electricity as a source of energy. Then you just look out. If you are sitting in a room which has got a window or which has got a balcony or there is a glass panel outside, you see solar light. So you are using the solar energy for your comfort and this. Next, if your room is not air-conditioned room, if you are in touch with the nature, you use the wind energy for your comfort. Or if you are in an air-conditioned or in a closed room, you use fans to generate this wind, and wind energy is used for your comfort. Then we have the geothermal energy. This you will not think that you are utilizing geothermal. You always hear geothermal as a so scientific option and all. Actually, we are using geothermal because our life and our day-to-day temperatures are comfortable with the help of geothermal energy. Okay, so we are using geothermal. Next, if you peep into your kitchens, you use LPG for your cooking and the main this thing. And some transports, they use natural gas. So gas is used. And then comes the main one, which is oil. That is when you go out, you use petrol, diesel, you use scooters, cars, or you use buses. But all of these use lubes and greases also, which is also part of the oil energy. So these 6 forms of energy you are seeing daily, you are using directly. Okay, of these 6, the first one is not available in nature directly. The next 5, solar, wind, geothermal, and gas, oil, they are available in nature, which you are using. Whereas electricity is manufactured, is generated at some other place with the help of the, again, sources which are available in nature. The first of them I showing it as hydel. You have seen hydropower stations where you get it. Then majority of the thermal power stations are run by coal. Okay, so that is a source of energy. And you have heard of nuclear power stations also. In India, it is contributing to a small percent of, say, 4 to 5% only. But in some Western countries, it is contributing up to say even 60% of it. So nuclear is another source of energy. Then a small portion comes from the tidal energy. That is, it is able to drive the turbine and generate electricity. Then we are talking about bio sources, from where we generate electricity and it comes up. So this makes up all the energy sources which we are using now. Okay, now I will talk about the global energy, whether we are how much we are using what. Dr. Prabhudev in his introduction said that we are using a lot amount of thermal energy now. That is fine. So I will just tell you, about the global consumption, the maximum energy source which we are consuming now today is oil. Okay, next comes coal, because coal is the major source of power generation. Though many of us are not directly using it, power is coming in it, and like we saw in our previous slide, that is the electricity we use so much that most of them are coming from coal. Next is gas. Like we use LPG, the transport sector uses natural gas. So the next quantity wise it is gas. Then fourth is hydel. Then we have got nuclear contribution. Then we have got windmills, which is they are all coming up nowadays. And then we use solar. You have heard so much of solar farms and all. They are all generating that energy. Then we are using biofuels to generate power, and for our utility consumptions, which comes at that stage. Then we have small amount comes from tidal, and then we have got geothermal energy sources also giving out hot water and steam and other these things which are being used. So I have categorized the 11 sources of energy which are on the left I presented into the order of consumption which is on your right. Okay, now I will divide these sources of energy into two sets. The first set contains hydel, solar, wind, tidal, geothermal, and bio. And the second set consists of oil, coal, gas, and nuclear. Now, if you just have a look at it, it is very clear that on the right I have renewable energy sources, on the left we have non-renewable energy sources. And in the previous slide, I gave a list of hierarchy according to their consumption. So you will find that the first came oil, then came coal, then came gas, then came hydel, then came nuclear. So we are predominantly depending on non-renewable energy sources. Okay. Of course, you are hearing so much in the press regarding the renewable energy sources like hydel, solar and all. But as of now, we have reached about say 30-35%. Okay. And we are trying to reach more. Okay. How that is going to solve the problem, we will see as we go ahead. In the meanwhile, we are trying to tap more of this tidal, geothermal and bio also. Now, I will talk about the points of concern. Why government is spending so much and why government wants the public to concentrate on this and help us to overcome these things. The points of concerns are three. The first one is the economics. Economics, there are three levels. One is a personal level, institutional level, and national level. Personal level, directly when you save petrol in your two-wheeler or car, or when the public sector drivers saves diesel in his diesel vehicle, or when while we cook, we are able to extend the number of days we get our LPG. All these are at personal level. All these are going to benefit us economically at a personal level. Our pocket is less burdened. Next comes the institutional level. When we use the same methodologies, like you use good habits when you are in your office or when you are going around in your workplace, when you are practicing good habits, then the institution for which you are working, for which you are a part of it, that is going to benefit. And it is going to increase the bottom line of that institute, which is going to benefit you. It is an indirect benefit coming to you. That is at the institutional level. Then coming to the national level, like I told in my introduction, we are importing 80 to 85% of our requirement now. Okay. How are we importing is by giving out, by settling the import bills. First choice of settling import bill is in dollars, US dollars. That we don't have so much with us, so we go to the next stage, which we give gold and we settle the bills. Next, we go into the barter system, like whatever India has got good quality and good quantity, like some of the agricultural products which we have in good quantity and quality, like we have good cotton, we have good rice, and we have good fruits. So we barter those systems and get oil, because oil is a very important object or source of energy. I will discuss in the subsequent slides that how much we are dependent on oil, that we cannot live without oil. So we give away our good stuff. Like you would have heard people saying that 10 years back we are getting good mangoes. Today we are not getting good mangoes. We are getting the second-rate mangoes, because the top-rate mangoes and top-rate rice and top-rate wheat are being exported to get this oil. So whatever you are going to save, whatever you are going to conserve is going to benefit the nation. That is going to help the nation to bring down the import bill. So these are the three levels from the economics point of view. Next point of view is the social aspect. Like in the introduction, Dr. Samath said that we are actually borrowing this from our next generation. That is, we are taking it on lease. We are using this few fuels and energy, which if we are able to conserve and use it less, we can give it to them. Okay, to make you understand about the social impact of this conservation, I will go a little deep in my subsequent slides. The third is the environmental point of it. Okay, how conservation helps to retain a good environment. Okay, now we will go to a, like I said, we have to do it because we are so much dependent on oil. Okay, think of a day. You start the day with brushing your teeth. First thing is you pick up a plastic toothbrush which has got a nylon bristles, and you use a toothpaste which has got a petroleum jelly. Then you take tea, coffee which is made on LPG, and for to get the milk for the tea and coffee, the industry, that is a dairy, it uses furnace oil in its boilers. Then you take bath, you change your clothes, and you come with your formal dress, which is mostly nylon and polyester. So cotton is not a petroleum product. Right? All non-cotton products are related to petroleum product, because the starting point is petrochemical. Then you have your breakfast to increase the production of food. We use fertilizers. To make fertilizer, the starting point is again a petrochemical, which comes from this source. Then they use kerosene for as a fuel, and for in some small portion lighting also. Then you go out and you start moving around. You go to your workplace or to any other place with the help of your two-wheelers, cars, or the public transport. All use petrol and diesel, which is a petroleum product. And greases, which is again a petroleum product. When you travel on road, to make road, bitumen is required, or many people know it as tar. And apart from this, when you go from one city, one country to another country, you fly, and there aviation turbine fuel is used, which is nothing but again a petroleum product. And these are the bulk products which you use. And we have got Another bulk product, natural gas, which also you would have seen in some of the many of the industries are using natural gas to give you the products which you use on a day-to-day. Okay. Then we have got a range of products called specialty products. That is, it is about 40 products or so are there. Like we have got wax, paraffin wax, which is that's a petroleum product. Cosmetics which you use, there is a jelly called a petroleum jelly. And if you see a transformer outside, big box in between. Inside the box, there is a fluid called transformer oil to control the temperature of the transformer. Similarly, in a textile industry, there is a product called mineral turpentine oil, which is used for printing to get corners of the print. Without mineral turpentine oil, the print will be there. So 30 more products, petroleum products. So why all these products are used? Because all these are obtained from one single source, that is crude oil. This crude oil is obtained from our earth. You would have heard about onshore. Onshore drilling is the one when the crude oil is available below the land. And offshore drilling, it is called when crude oil is available below the seas and the oceans. So this crude oil is available below our land. In India, we have got three sources of it. Okay, that is oil. Then we have got Bombay. Of these, Assam and Gujarat are onshore, and Bombay High is which is available on the Arabian Sea. The maximum comes from Bombay High. Now, this crude oil is obtained, say, you have to dig 5 kilometers to 10 kilometers, depending on the location. Then you bring it out. That is being done by the company called Oil and Natural Gas Commission, ONGC, you have heard. Okay, that gives only about 15 to 20% of our requirement. Balance 80-85% we are importing. Ships and big tankers. And all this crude oil is taken to, there are about 22 refineries in India. And all these refineries process, bring out all the products which I have shown on my left. From plastics and up the heaviest one. So if you see, in a day-to-day, we have started depending on petroleum source, that from the time we get up and to the time we go to bed, we are using petrol. So we have to come to it. Now, Mr. Prabhudev said, this is not going to last long. He even gave the right, this as per today's projection, we expect to get this crude oil another 40 years only. Okay, afterwards we will not have this crude oil. So the day will come when you won't be able to make plastics, you won't be able to get petrochemicals, you won't be able to get petrol, diesel to travel, you won't be able to get polyester raw materials to make, and also it is going to affect every action of our life. So work is being done to find replacement of each and that. Heard of petrol being replaced by ethyl alcohol, ethanol. Diesel being replaced by biodiesels. You have heard of furnace oil equipments being replaced by natural gas. And this natural gas is available for 60 years. Crude oil liquid form is available for 40 years. It will come when we don't find anything. So we other sources of energy. So if you are able to give more time to these findings, okay, to the scientists or to the research and development wings. Suppose by our conservation, we are able to give 2 more years to them. Instead of 40, we make it 42. So we give them more opportunities to give us alternate work. And since I'm talking about 40, some of us may not see those 40 years more. Many of us, I hope that we see to it, then we see the change also. But the next generation is bound to be affected by this. That is why when Dr. Samar gave the statement, no, that we are borrowing this from them because it is their comfort, we are borrowing it today. Bit more of that by telling you how was this crude oil formed below the earth. It is by the fossilization. That is, where buried on pressures and temperatures, it fuels. And this was done by millions of years. Fossilization, you would have heard that it is happening for millions of years. And we are telling that we are going to use this years. Today we are in 2020. Another 40 years means it is 2060. Now, if from what time using this crude oil, you will come to 2 or 3 points. The first point appears before 1800. There is a star marked there on the screen. That is, crude oil was 1750, 1750. Then the next big step is the star is the 19. That is the place where all this internal combustion is getting. We found diesel engine, we found petrol engine, we found corner cycle, we found product short. Then, turn of the century, another big industry was invented, that is the aviation. Wright brothers found aircraft. That made us product. Then in 1920s, we came up realization. That is when the cottage industries, bio, they all got converted into a corporate industrialization, came under one roof. So they started requiring more amount of fuels. So the petroleum fuel is shot up. So, and today we are in 2020. So if you see, you're using this petroleum fuel. We all discussed that years to form. We are using it in this greed because of the convenience. Like we saw one crude oil, which you are using day in and day out. So we are using it very fast. From the social point of view, to
Bhaskar sir, I think so there is some connectivity issue from your side. I request the participants to please stay with us, bear with us. There's some technical difficulty with from Bhaskar sir's and we'll just rectify it in 2 minutes. Hello, Bhaskar sir. We are able to see you now. You can share your screen, sir. Okay.
I was just trying to call you about my shares. I think I have come out of the sharing also, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So your internet,
Hello?
I think so, is not so stable, sir. Hello, sir. Your internet connection is not so stable, I believe, sir.
No,
If you could just change the place.
नको छोड़ो सर.
Uh, you able to see the slide?
No, sir. You can share it again, sir.
I'll share it again. Okay.
Yes, sir,
it's
it is
visible now,
visible.
sir.
That is the first slide is visible, huh? Good morning slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll just go to the slide where I was talking. Yes, sir. Please confirm if the same slide has come up.
Yes, sir. Dependence on oil.
Okay, fine. Now, I was talking about this, that what we have got formed in millions of years, we have consumed it in 200 years. So this is a social responsibility to see that your future generations are also able to use these products. So I talked about the social aspect of it. The third aspect is the environment aspect. That is, if you
Sorry to
are
interrupt, sir. Sorry to interrupt, sir, but the screen is blank, sir. Sorry to interrupt. The screen that you have shared is blank here, sir.
is blank now.
We are not able to see the screen. Yes, sir.
I think the network is not strong to.
Okay, shall I
protect the
share it, sir?
screen.
If you allow me, shall I share it, sir? Shall I share the slide?
Okay, fine. If you can share it, it is fine. I will stop sharing then.
Okay, sir.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I have. Mr. Samad?
It's visible, Bhaskar.
Dr. Samad?
Yes, sir. Are you able? Yes, sir. Sir, are you able to
Yeah, so
view the
now it is
screen?
being. Yes, please come up. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
you have brought this slide on the
Yes, sir. Dependence on oil.
Hello?
I think so. This was the slide from where we had to continue.
Okay, now that we are that is why we are social responsibility comes into the play for conservation. Now we can just go to the next slide. Okay, skip next slide. Go to the next slide. See, since we are, I am approaching my end, I will go to a couple of more slides pertaining to it. Oh, okay, go to the next slide. Okay, now we are in the slide to talk about greenhouse gases. Okay, this will tell you about the environment. Now, to understand this, you have that why Earth needs. See, Earth has got so many natural processes which are going on. That is the rain cycle, nitrogen cycle, sulfur cycle, and it gives us so much of grains. It gives us fruits. It gives us so many products. So all these will not be available without any input. It needs energy. Where does it get energy? Is from the sun. So I'm just taking an example. That is, we get energy from sun of 100 units. Okay, and needs only 50 units of that. So 30 units is lost in the space while traveling. Balance 70 units, it reaches Earth. Earth retains 50 only, and the balance 20 is reflected back. Now, Earth needs this 50 units. If this 50 becomes more, it leads to the global warming. That is, the temperature increases, more ice melting, sea level rises, it affects the rains, it affects the nitrogen cycle, it affects the sulfur cycle, it affects everything which is happening naturally. Similarly, if this 50 units becomes less, then we go to the ice age. That is, lower the temperature, ice melting becomes less, sea level becomes less, rain is affected, all other natural processes are affected. So this retaining 50% of the energy what we receive from the sun is very important. And this is done with the help of greenhouse gases. That is, greenhouse gases is a layer of gas around Earth, which ensures that only 50% of the energy what we receive from sun is retained. Like I explained, if it retains more, it is not good. If it retains less, so greenhouse gas is actually required. But the problem comes when we start the composition of the greenhouse gases. Please. Next slide will show you that the greenhouse is made up of 5 gases. And these have to be maintained in the percentages which are shown there. Okay, the problem is coming nowadays because we are fiddling with the percentages. Like you have heard of ozone layer depletion. Ozone has to be 7%. Now, because of the throwout from some of the industries, this ozone layer is getting punctured. This 7% becomes 6.9 or 6.8. So that is affecting the greenhouse gas blanket. Similarly, if you take others, methane has to be 12%. Methane comes from cattle growing. So if the cattle growings are becoming out of bound, that is affecting. Now, we will talk a little about carbon dioxide because we are talking about conservation, because we are talking about conserving energy. When you generate any energy, carbon dioxide is evolved. This carbon dioxide has to be 54% of the greenhouse gas. If it's 54%, there's no problem. See, you breathe out carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is you burn fuels. So carbon dioxide goes on increasing, and nature has got a mechanism by which this carbon dioxide is being controlled. That is called photosynthesis. That is, plants, when they make food during the day, it takes in this carbon dioxide and it gives out oxygen. So the balance of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is maintained through the plants. That is the importance of greenery. So nowadays the greenery is becoming less. So this carbon dioxide balance is getting disturbed. The right balance of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is 300 number. That is 300 parts per million. If you understand parts per million, keep it like that. Or 300 number is the nature has given us that balance, which our system, we are breathing in air which has got 300 parts per million of carbon dioxide to keep our normal health. But today, because of the excessive carbon dioxide which we are throwing out, the 300 has become 375. So we are breathing in air which has got 375 ppm of carbon dioxide. That is leading to health hazards. So if we go on, allow this unabated, it is expected that by 2100 we will reach 600 ppm. That is, we are at 375 now. Nature has designed for 300, but we expect by 2100 it is going to touch 600. So you imagine the type of hazards it is going to create. So the third point for conservation concern is that it impacts the environment. So I have covered all the three aspects of it: financial aspect, social aspect, economic aspect. So these are the three reasons why we should conserve. So why we should conserve, I have covered. When we should conserve is that we have to conserve it now. Like I showed, two types of energies: non-renewable and renewable. Today we are depending more on non-renewable. That is why all these 3 points of concerns are arising. Think of a day when we have shifted from non-renewable to renewable energy sources, like we are getting all energy from wind and solar and geothermal and all those. Then all these 3 points of concerns will vanish. That is, economics will not be a problem. Social aspect also, since it is a renewable one, you need not bother whether it will come for future generations or not. It will come. It will come for n number of generations. So social aspect is also overcome. Environment aspect also, because carbon dioxide is not involved. It is not going to affect the greenhouse blanket. So your health also will be good. So with that, I come to the end of my talk. I have told why and when. Now I will give it to Mr. Prakash Rao to tell how we can go about doing our little bit towards this conservation. So over to Mr. Prakash Rao.
Okay. Good morning to all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
You're audible, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'm Prakash Rao. Without wasting any time, I'll straight away start off. Now, one point which Mr. Bhaskar Rao had left it to me was how to save or how to conserve energy. It is good that he talked about nation, he talked about how, why and all that. I'll tell you how each one of us can contribute in saving energy, not only for ourselves. And he said how to keep our pockets deeper, in the sense how we can save money for ourselves and in turn save it for the nation. So I'm going to give you some tips which you can follow at your homes, at your institution, and if some of you are working at your factories, your offices. If you follow this, it will definitely save money for you. And obviously it will save for the nation. So going forward, so this is already talked about, so I'll skip this slide. Now, if you see this, Mr. Bhaskar had explained that we started consuming the crude oil, which was a result of the fossil fuel, from 1800 and odd. Now we are all at the peak of the consumption, and another 50 years, especially the crude oil will get exhausted. After that, what? We have to think about it. Here, if you see this slide, it is the ratio between the reserve and production of coal, oil, and natural gas in the world. Now, coal, the world has got 909 gigatons of reserves. Every year, about 5 gigatons of coal is extracted and consumed. So it will last us for next 200 years. We don't have to worry because another 2-3 generations it'll go on. Now coming to oil, which is very, very crucial, the quantity available, the reserve available is only about 148 gigatons. And every year the production is around 4 gigatons and it lasts us for next 40 years. I have been with PCRA for last 12 years after I retired from Siemens. The same slide I have been showing for last 12 years. There's no change. So am I going wrong in showing the same slide? I should have reduced this from 40 years to 30 years by now. I have not done it. I kept it 40. Why is it so? It is because, yes, the consumption is going high. The number of vehicles on the roads are going high. The number of products that are extracted from the crude oil is going high. But 40 is remaining 40 because world is still exploring additional oil fields either on land or in mid oceans and compensating the extra higher consumption. Now coming to natural gas, there is a reserve of 171 gigatons and it will last us for next 60 years. Now, benefits, optimization for the generation to meet demand. That is what is conservation. That is how to, with the available sources, with the available requirement quantity, how we can meet our demand. And obviously, which I said earlier, to save money for ourselves, and most important, to reduce pollution, where Mr. Bhaskar talked about greenhouse effect. Now to it was already talked earlier, saying that to preserve precious resources, that is for our future generation. We are borrowing from our future generation, whereas our forefathers kept it for us, and we are consuming mercilessly and also borrowing from our future generation. So to preserve that, we need to conserve the natural resources. Energy is like time. Once wasted, can't be regenerated. Now, I had divided my presentation into 3 parts: petroleum product, electricity, and domestic LPG. Now, each slide will give you a lot of information where you can save money for yourself and for the nation. Let us start with petroleum products. Now, the unprocessed oil that comes out of the earth is called petroleum. It is a fossilization fuel. How is it found? If you see the geography of the world, where does the crude oil mostly come out from? It mostly comes from the Middle East. But why only Middle East? And as Mr. Bhaskar said, only 15% of the crude oil is available in India, whereas the remaining 85% we imported. And most of it is imported from the Middle East country. Why only it is there? Have you thought about it? Why is it not available all over the globe? As per me, the fossilization has taken there more. Why? Possibly, million of years back, some other planet like Earth must have come and collided with the Earth. And when there's a collision, there's a dent in the Earth or whatever product. There's a big, say, a huge big hole. And all that is the oil, the water, the vegetation, the animals, etc., must have gone buried into it. And over the years, because of the decomposition, because of the pressure, and it must have, it has turned into different, like coal, it has turned into coal and petrol and gas, etc. So crude oil that is extracted is actually varies from color, various colors you get, right from clear to tar black. And the viscosity is from water to almost solid. So solid you see is the tar. Now crude oil is a starting point, as Mr. Bhaskar said, for so many different substances because it contains hydrogen and carbon. Next. Now let's go to the petroleum product. Oh, sorry. Why should we save? To control our import bill, to meet the increased demand, which is definitely not available for the future, and one for environmental reasons. If you see this slide, sector-wide consumption, The maximum is consumed by the transport sector. Then comes the domestic sector, which is around 18%. Industrial sector consumes around 14% of the petroleum product. Agriculture sector consumes about 4%, and others around 13% of the 120 million megatons of petrol. Now, I'm giving you certain tips. I've just mentioned here it as car, it can be two-wheelers also. Now, how to save fuel for your car? Now, if four of us are going from one location to another, so for example, I and my colleagues from here are approaching your college, instead of taking 4 different cars, if we use only one car and I pick up my 3 other colleagues, come to your college and come back and drop each one of them, we say all together, we save fuel for the remaining 3 cars. Tomorrow my other colleague can bring, day after tomorrow somebody else can bring. So it is called carpool. If we can make use of this carpool facility and fill up the empty seats, we can save a lot of fuel. And if you remember earlier days, especially during my school days and college there were only 2 types of two-wheelers and only 2 types of four-wheelers. The four-wheelers are Fiat and Ambassador, and the two-wheelers are Lambretta and Vespa. Now, where have they gone? Why has it stopped? Why are they not being produced anymore? Because they were fuel efficient. And today, if you are going to buy a two-wheeler, example, you go to a shop, what is the first question you ask to the salesman there? You will not ask what the price is. You will say, how much, what is the mileage? Or if you remember the old Bajaj advertisement, kitna deti hai? How much mileage it gives you? If one gives 54 kilometers per liter, other gives 58, you will think of buying the vehicle which gives you 58 kilometers. That is the efficiency of the vehicle where you save fuel. Next point is to maintain the car regularly. Give it for servicing, get the tuning done, and it will increase your mileage by around between 4 and 40% if the engine is tuned properly. Replacing a filter, air filter, will get your mileage increased by 10%. We have a tendency of overloading our vehicle. There is a carrier on the top of the car, or we overload the dicky with unwanted things. If all this is removed, the weight of the car reduces. The more the weight, more torque is required for the vehicle to move forward. More torque means more fuel. More fuel means more wastage of money. So get rid of the unwanted weight from the car or your vehicle. Remove unwanted gadgets, the showy gadgets, so that your vehicle becomes lighter and your fuel consumption reduces. Hard acceleration braking, that is when you know that you are approaching a signal, which is you are not going to reach there before it turns red. No point of speeding up there and braking there. That means you are only wasting fuel by increasing the speed and braking it at the signal. So it's better to maintain your speed constantly and saving fuel. Bundle errands. What does bundle errand mean? Bundle errands is nothing but if you have 5 or 6 jobs to be done in the course of the day, instead of doing one job and coming back home, again going to the second job, coming back home, going to the third one and coming back home, instead if you can do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth and come back home, you save a lot of fuel. So make a list of the things that you need to do, plan your route, and save fuel. So this is the tips on using the car. You might have seen this type of digital meter on the traffic signal post. What is the purpose of this? Why has it been installed by the traffic police? This is a rundown meter which runs from say 60 seconds to 0 seconds. What is the purpose of it? It is that if you are halting your vehicle there for more than 10 seconds, you have to switch off your engine. By switching off the engine, you save fuel. On an average, around 0.098 liters of fuel can be saved for every 10 minutes of idling. So if you just for the sake of understanding, At one particular signal, always the opposite direction vehicles are allowed to move. So suppose there are 200 vehicles, that is including cars and two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and multi-wheeler vehicles, 200 on either side, that's 400 vehicles are waiting for the signal to change from red to green. And all the vehicles are not switched off. And presume during this 60 seconds, they consume 10 drops of fuel, be it diesel or be it petrol. 10 drops into 400, that's 4,000 drops. Say at least around 10 liters of fuel is wasted. And imagine how many times the signal change in a day at one particular location. How many such locations are there in Bangalore? How many such locations are there in Karnataka? How many such locations there in India? So how many liters of fuel is wasted? My suggestion or our suggestion for PCR is switch off your engine if you are halting at the signal for more than 10 seconds. Driving the vehicle in lower gear only increases the consumption of fuel. Go to the higher gear and maintain your speed, a steady speed of 40 to 45 kilometers per hour. So you get the best out of the fuel. This is already talked about by Mr. Bhaskar. The pollution, if the vehicle is not maintained, the carbon dioxide emission goes up by between 20 to 25%. 450 metric tons of carbon dioxide out of 1100 metric ton is emitted by burning of petrol, oil, and lubricants. After USA, China, Russia, and Japan, India is the 5th emitter of carbon dioxide in the world. This was a part of petrol. Now let me go to electricity. This is a slightly old slide, which I have taken it from Central Electricity Authority. This is as on February 2019. Around 63% of the electricity is generated by burning of coal, lignite, gas, and oil, which are all the natural resources. Around 13% we generate by renewable energy, that is by hydel power. Around 1% or say 2% is from nuclear energy, and around 21% by renewable energy sources like windmill, solar, tidal, and so many other things. If you see here, the bulk of it comes from burning of thermal, by burning of coal, lignite, gas, and oil, which is a natural resources, and very minimal comes from nuclear energy. Going further, to generate 1 kilowatt of power, around 1.2 kgs of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere. Now we are generating around 222,297 megawatt of power into 1.2 kgs. That much of carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Whereas nuclear waste generated through the nuclear energy, which is generating power, even 1 gram of nuclear energy is more harmful than carbon dioxide. If you remember the past history, around 15 years back or something, that Chernobyl or somewhere in Russia, there was a calamity of the nuclear energy getting released unwantedly, and it was a calamity. Same thing happened in Japan about 3-4 years back. And even today, that area is banned from the people to go there. It's still risky to go there. So the waste of nuclear energy is more harmful than the carbon dioxide, which is released by burning of coal for generating power. This is a picture which I had taken while I was in service. I used to cover thermal power stations. This is in Andhra Pradesh. And this is a peak mid-afternoon. It's not in the evening or late evening. It is peak afternoon, and 5 chimneys are emitting coal ash into the atmosphere. And if you see the buildings around it, these are the colonies of the employees of the thermal power station. They stay there, they work around in the factory, in the thermal power plant, and 24/7, the chimneys keep on emitting such smoke. You can well imagine how much of ash they must be inhaling. While I used to go there, I used to see all the plants there. The green plants had turned into white because the ash had settled down on the plants. If at all that thermal plant had used electronic static precipitator, it would have absorbed the ash and only released the gas into the atmosphere. It would have saved. But now I understand they have stopped using the power plant. They discarded it and put a new plant there, which doesn't emit this much of smoke. So this is already talked about. So I'll skip this about greenhouse effect. Yeah, this is one more slide. Now because of the COVID, we are at our homes and conducting such webinar. But early days, we used to go to the factories and offices and conduct seminars. Sometimes we used to be early. So they used to make us sit either in the cabin beside their auditorium, or they used to ask us to go and sit in the canteen. This is a picture I have taken from one of the factories in their canteen, because we were a little early there. We were made to sit in the canteen. Now you see in the picture, nobody's there in the hall. Only me and my colleague were sitting there. Now you see the lights are on, the fans are on, the TV is on, but there's nobody to enjoy that. How much of electricity is wasted? Now, if you ask the worker there, now who pays for this negligence? Who pays for this electricity being wasted? He will say that my company pays. Agreed, the company pays. Now who pays to the company? You and me. Now you presume this company is producing toilet soap, which we use for taking bath, and they sell the one soap at say 31 rupees. And because the power bill has increased, they increase the soap by just 1 rupee. And ultimately we pay 32 rupees for the soap. For the negligence of the worker there, if they are switched off the fan and light, that much of power bill of the current factory would have come down. Now at homes and even in any institution, if the bulbs are dusted, the dust settles down on the bulbs. If it is dusted, the heat generation will come down and the bulb will emit the luminous power that it should be doing, and the life of the bulb will also increase. So it is better, it is advisable that the bulbs, the tube lights should be cleaned frequently so that there is no dust on it and it doesn't generate heat and it dissipates heat and gives you brighter light. During our old days, we used to use that yellow round bulb, which is now banned from manufacture and selling. That was called, it used to have a tungsten wire, and we used to call it incandescent light bulb. For a 40-watt bulb, used to give us a luminous power of 450 units. 450 luminous was the power output of that bulb. Now today, for 450, a CFL, that compact fluorescent lamp, 13 watts is sufficient. See the drop in wattages from 40 watts of incandescent, it dropped to 13. And now we have stopped even CFL and we are using LEDs, light emitting diodes. Just to give you the same 450 luminous power, we require only 5 watts. 90% drop in the wattages by using LED lamps instead of the round bulbs. And again, from 13 watts to 13 watts to 5 watts by using LED instead of CFL. So also a different luminous power. I have given you the values. Yes, I agree. LED lamps are more costlier than CFL, which is more costlier than incandescent bulb. But this is a one-time purchase. Your electricity bill, which you pay month after month, gets reduced. So switch over to LED and save money for yourself and for the nation. Use solar panel for heating power, for heating water at your residence. And at villages, even solar panels are used for cooking. And if it is ISI marked, it is much better because it will save more power. Why? Because they use quality products. Even motors and pipes for agriculture purpose need to have ISI marking. 1 unit saved is equal to 2 units generated. Now coming to the coloring of your homes or coloring of the institution. When I say coloring, it is within the four walls in the place where you stay. Instead of putting light all day through, the artificial light or tube light or what you put it, instead, if you color the wall in the lighter shades, if you see in the shade card, the lighter shade which are at the bottom, those colors will reflect light, whereas the dark color which are on the top will absorb more light. Absorbing more light means you have to use artificial light. So paint the wall with light colors to reflect light and limit the necessity of artificial lighting. This slide I have taken from the advertisement of BESCOM, the electricity board advertisement, where they have said given do's and don'ts. First is the small children should be taught not to fiddle with electrical gadgets. That is, the wires, as far as we are concerned, should be properly insulated, and they should be taught that it gives you shock, don't touch it. And now we have seen for our vacuum cleaners, for our air conditioners, the plug points are at the ground level, around 9 inches above the floor level. And those are all normally left open if it is not plugged. So please ensure that the plug sockets are above the reach, beyond the reach of the child. And if you cannot, put a dummy plug in that so that the child doesn't go and put any unwanted thing into the socket and get a shock. So 3-pin sockets should be earth to prevent shock. And the gadgets, if it goes out of order, should be repaired by a authorized electrician so that he knows what to do and he uses quality product and you get a better output from the gadget and also save power. If you go a little out of the city and the village side, you might have seen the huge towers which carry power, electricity from the generating station to your city. And these wires are naked wires, it is not insulated. The power travels on the wire from the power station to the substation. And in case if the houses are constructed just below the house, below the towers where the wire are going, if the wire snaps due to any reason, and if the human being comes in contact with it, it will be utter calamity. So ensure that the houses are not constructed below the wire, below the HT wires. And while you are at home or offices or any institution, do not touch the electrical switches and equipment with wet hands. Chances of getting a shock are high. This label, you might have seen, it is becoming more and more frequent. This is called a BEE label, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency label. It's called a 5-star label. It is now compulsory for all the consumer domestic products. In this label, 2 stars are highlighted. If this label products is used, you can save around 300 units per year. A 3-star LED bulb saves around 42 rupees per year if it is replaced by a CFL lamp, and around 318 rupees per year if it is replaced by a incandescent bulb. So this was part of the electricity. Now let us go to the last section, that is the LPG gas. Now what is LPG? We have been using this abbreviation day in and out. What is LPG? LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. That includes propane, propylene, butane, and butylene. If you follow the presentation which I'm giving on LPG, you can save around 30% of cooking gas at your home. And I would suggest that whatever I'm going to tell you now, if you carry it home and tell your family member the tips which I'm going to give you, it'll go a long way in saving cooking gas at home. So liquid under pressure is released as a gas. And while the gas is manufactured, it is colorless and it doesn't have a smell. The dirty smell or the distinctive foul odor is added purposefully so that the leakage of gas is detected. Otherwise, it has no smell. Now, if you have seen the many TV channels where they tell you about the cookery, about how to make one particular recipe, how to make one particular dish, and the host who is presenting, what does he do in the beginning? Before he starts, while he starts, he doesn't run around the kitchen to collect the items. He doesn't light the stove and go around. He keeps all the things within the reach before lighting the stove. He doesn't search for the vessels. He doesn't search for the ingredients. Only when everything is around the person, only then the gas is lighted. Thereby, the gas is saved. And for every 1 hour of gas wastage, around 4 to 5 rupees is lost. So do not light the gas and run around in the kitchen to collect ingredients, vessel, water, etc., etc. Keep everything ready, then light the gas. We have been using pressure cooker at our homes. So there are separators in the cooker. And if you cook rice, you save 20% by using a cooker. You save a soaked gram dal. I'm stressing on the word soaked, which you soak overnight. If you cook in the pressure cooker, you save around 46% of the gas. And if you cook non-vegetarian dishes, around 42% by using separators in the gas. Just because a vessel is big, it does not mean that you fill it up with water to heat something. Surplus water will only be wastage of fuel. Just put sufficient water so that the nutrient doesn't lose its potency. Cooking rice with double the required quantity is just waste of fuel, and it increases your fuel consumption by 65%. While the milk or any content of the vessel comes to a boiling point, you switch the gas to the sim position, thereby saving around 35% of your fuel. That's why there is a sim position put on the gas cylinder. I have said this again earlier. Soak the chana, kabuli chana, peas, dal, etc. overnight and save around 22% of the fuel. Now, the diameter of the flame or diameter of the burner is around 25 centimeters. So use a broader vessel. The diameter of the vessel should be bigger than 25 centimeters so that the flame doesn't come from the side of the vessel. It is only at the bottom, and the transmission of heat is balanced all through. One more thing, the cooking the cooking stove should not be kept closer to the window. If the window is open, see that the cooking stove is kept at a distance away from the window so that when there is a wind flowing from outside, the flame doesn't get disturbed. I mean, if the window is on the right hand side, the flame will go towards the right hand side. So left side, there will not be any flame. So it's a waste of fuel. Most important, do not hang any curtains onto the window. If there's a wind, the curtain will swing and it may catch fire. One more thing, as Mr. Bhaskar said, the dresses that we wear are made of polyester, nylon, etc., which is a byproduct of the crude oil. So while cooking, the lady or the gent, whoever is near the stove, advisable not to wear any synthetic material. Instead, wear a cotton dress. If for some reason it is not possible to change over to cotton dress, it is advisable to wear a cotton apron so that your life is protected. Life is more important than saving of fuel. So wear a cotton apron and protect yourself. While it's getting heated, while the food is getting heated from the bottom, it should not dissipate or evaporate from the top. So cover it with a lid. The loss of heat is around 2.5 times if the wind is blowing. There are 2 burners or if it's a 4-burner stove, one burner will be small. If your vessel is smaller and your ingredient is less, use a small burner. It will save around 10% of the gas. Like in motor vehicles, clean the burner. There we clean the filter. Here also clean the burner, and it's preferable to ask the gas mechanic to come and clean it if you are not very comfortable doing it yourself. And once you light it, the flame should be blue in color. Blue color flame is good for combustion. Yellow or orange flame means the combustion is incomplete and it's a waste of gas. So that you should, when you light the stove, the flame should be blue. We in India, we have a tendency of eating more of salt. And if the vessel is not cleaned or scrubbed properly, the layer of salt is formed in the inner body of the vessel, which prevents the heat from outside, from the gas to come into the vessel. More gas is consumed. So it is advisable to scrub the inner of the vessel as much as possible so that the salt formation is dissolved. The thick coating can reduce the flow of heat to the vessel, thereby increasing the fuel consumption. We keep things overnight into the fridge for preserving it for the next day use. It is suggested that you do not take out the vessels from the fridge and directly put onto the stove. If you have enough time, keep the things what you want to heat up, like milk, overnight food, or frozen things, etc. Keep it on the table. Do your other job. See, the temperature inside the fridge is around 5 degrees Celsius, centigrade, and the ambient is around 30-32 degrees. So 5 to 32 degrees, the nature will heat it up for you, free of cost. Now to boil from 30 to 100, you have to use gas. So the cold milk, frozen meal, and other things, you take it out from the fridge and keep it on your cooking table. And once you are ready, you can put it on the stove and light the gas stove. Because cold food will consume a lot of fuel. This is my last slide. This slide was more applicable when COVID was not there, where we used to rush in the morning, carrying our breakfast or eating breakfast in a hurry and running to our institution or colleges or wherever we used to work, have a lunch in a factory or offices. And only time when we can spend time with our family is the dinner time. So we used to sit with our family and have dinner together. That was a time when we could sit with the family members and discuss what had happened in the day and thereby enjoy with our food. But what way it is concerned with the talk what I'm giving. When all family members sit together and eat, the food is heated only once. So you don't waste gas for frequently heating. But it may not be possible every time. There might be some members of the family who may be coming late because of their other exigencies of work or tuitions or whatever it is. For them, it's advised that the heated food, you keep it in the casserole or the heated container so that they come and don't heat the food again, and just if the food will remain hot, they can consume it from the casserole directly. So this is what I had to say. So thank you. Now we are open for question answer sessions.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed enriching session. Your talk has made us understand the value of energy and why should we conserve it, and most importantly, how to make ourselves rich. I think so every participant who has given their years can become very rich by reducing their operating expenses in the form of fuel charges that they incur on a monthly basis. So right now we are open for question and answers. Those participants who have questions to us can raise their hands. We will unmute them in turns. Irma Patil madam has been unmuted. You can ask your question, ma'am. Mubashira has been unmuted. You can ask a question.
Hello,
Yeah.
sir. You said about
Thank you,
cooking
madam.
in pressure. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, you said about cooking in pressure cooker and all, where we can save the energy. But according to Food and Nutrition, it's not good for health to cook in pressure cookers. What do you say about this? Hello.
Yeah. Mr. Prakash, would you like to answer this?
No, you can answer. You can answer.
Asha, this question of about whether it is healthy or not.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some doubts that if you use pressure cooker, some of the health ingredients is being removed. See, we are talking here from the point of view of energy. From the
Yeah.
point of view of energy,
Yes.
definitely using a pressure cooker leads to the savings which Mr. Prakash Rao highlighted.
Yeah.
Now, talking about nutrients, we are not in the right position to comment on that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Still, I know all this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pressure cook. Yes, it is a divided opinion whether
Yes.
discussing the health value or the nutrition value is coming down or not.
Yeah,
So,
because nowadays health is more important than any other thing. I hope so.
Yeah. Health is see. When you are talking about pressure cooker, I will talk about milk cooker. Milk
Yeah.
cooker. Some of us would have used milk cooker. No? The one where, when you put on the stove and when
It
it
gives
starts
visual.
boiling,
Yeah.
it gives a whistle. Actually,
Yeah.
that consumes more fuel than the
Normal.
normal milk boiling.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
we advise to go in for the milk cooker from the safety point of view.
Yeah.
Okay, see, all these points which we are discussing now under the conservation point becomes secondary when the question of safety comes. Safety
Yes.
is the primary one.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
Mr. Prakash also indicated about some of the safety points, like don't wear nylon clothes, wear cotton clothes and all. So,
Yes.
it's a balance between two or three angles of the same subject.
Right. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
I request Mubashira madam to kindly ask a question. You have been unmuted. Mr. Derek has been unmuted. Sir, you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. So
Good
my
afternoon.
question is to Mr. V.S. Bhaskar.
Yeah.
So basically, I am talking from Manipal University, Manipal. I think you may have visited MIT. I heard that in the introduction. So we at the campus have an underground diesel storage tank.
Okay.
With and we intend to reactivate this. Currently, we are not using this. So it has the approval of PESO, etc. And we have an internal fleet of somewhere around 80 buses.
Okay.
So our thought process is during the reactivation process, we were also thinking of biodiesel blending.
Okay.
So there is no much clarity based on biodiesel policy whether we as a consumer are allowed to blend, or is it only the oil marketing companies that are allowed to? Although there are a lot of people in the market who are selling biodiesel.
Correct.
So I needed the clarity on this. So what does the law say, and how do we proceed further?
Okay. You are wanting to know whether you can use biodiesel in your fleet.
Correct.
Okay. Now, again, this is a gray area wherein government has not given any positive clearance for the individuals to use this biodiesel on their own.
Okay.
it has to come through the approved petrol bunks,
Okay.
which sells biodiesel. But there are, like you said, there are many parties who are doing it. That is, they are manufacturing biodiesel on their own and then they are using it in their own fleets. I know of colleges where they are collecting the used cooking oil and saponification, converting it into biodiesel, and they are using it. So it is sort of an unwritten accepted thing that yes, small users can use it. Only this thing is, you should not sell it in the market and make money.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, if you are using it on for your own use, then they just turn the other way.
Okay.
Okay, though you will not get a green this thing approval from them that yes, you can go ahead and use it.
Okay.
That is the status.
Okay, so basically, I cannot now, for example, my monthly demand would be 10 KL. So
Okay.
I what I wanted to do was probably buy 9 KL and 1 KL blended. So I am actually not allowed to do that. Rather, it would be the, for example, IOCL is my supplier. So it would be pertinent that IOCL gives me blended fuel itself.
Yeah.
That is the stand of the.
Correct. That is the first choice. If you can approach Indian Oil and say that it can be obtained from their own outlets.
Okay.
That is the best.
Best choice. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chennappa has a question.
Okay.
Mr. Chennappa, you are unmuted. You can ask your question. Mr. H. Shivananda, you are unmuted, sir. You can ask your question.
Hello, can I ask?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. It was indeed a very interesting presentation with respect to energy conservation. I want to ask one question. In India, we are having so much of the sunshine. Despite of that, we are not unable to tap the solar energy. Is it because of the huge lobbies, the thermal lobby in our country, which doesn't allow to tap the solar the energy?
Okay. See, there is no lobby from the thermal side. That much is clear. Okay, because thermal lobby is
because
not that.
Sir, some of the private, the people, one who own the thermal plant, they in a way put a lot of restraint on this the solar plant to come in. Okay. No, see, actually, solar is made up of two types. First type is you absorb solar in panels and convert it into electricity. That is called photovoltaic route. The second one is you absorb solar, this thing on the tubes inside which you are passing to cold water. That is called the thermal route. Now, if you work out the cost economics, the thermal route cost economics is good, but it cannot be scaled up and it cannot be distributed or taken to long distances. Whereas photovoltaic route can be scaled up. You can put a huge 2 megawatt field and other these things and can be carried to some distances also. But the cost economics is not in favor of photovoltaic, but because it depends so much on the costing of the government. That is, its repayment costs to the installer and all those things. It is dependent on the government policies. Okay, now having said about these two, for local use and all, you can directly go in for solar and that will be fine. That will be cost economics also. There is no question of thermal people coming and having a role and all.
Where the thermal people will be affected is when you put up huge farms, 2 megawatt, 4 megawatt farms, then this thing will be affected. But as of now, we have quite number of demand for this, that thermal lobby is not so much concerned about it now.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. H. Shivananda, sir, you have been unmuted. You can ask your question. The last question is from Mr. Muzammil. Mr. Muzammil, you have been unmuted. You can ask your question. So apart from these, there was one question which was dropped on the question box, sir. I would just read it. Is there any way by which we can save oil and petrol in large quantity in a short span of time?
See, there is no shortcut to it. As a first statement, there is no shortcut to it. It has to be done by step by step, step by step. And methods are going ahead. Like when I don't know who asked that question. Whoever has asked.
It was Ms. Mutahira.
Ms. Mutahira. Now, talking about petrol, yes, in two-wheelers, it is being replaced by the battery-operated two-wheelers, which will replace the petrol consumption. Okay, that is, if you are doing it faster, then you will replace the petrol in a faster way. But that is leading to some other problem of that. Where is electricity generated? The electricity demand will increase if all the fuel of petrol and diesel will be replaced by battery operated ones. Then I will go back to the previous question which was asked, no? The coal lobby and the solar and other these things. It will go into that kind of a lobby that the power generating units have to supply more energy to the public to charge the batteries. So ultimately, the power generation has to pick up. So this is a way where we can replace liquid fuel with other renewable energy sources, but it will not be a quick process. It will go step by step process only. Hope I have answered that question.
Thank you, sir. Sir, anything else, sir? Director, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bhaskar and Mr. Prakash Rao, for very informative session. But for the time constraint, we could have continued. It is almost 2 hours. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
So informative. So we look forward for further association with you. So we thank you once again. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I have one thing to say. It was really very heartening to see the director sitting through the entire session.
Thank you.
Normally what they do the inauguration and they walk off, leaving the participants to attend and get benefited. Here I observed that Dr. Prabhudeva was there throughout, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for that, sir. And I thank the entire team who were really cooperating well with us. Us are not very technical, stuck at this technical, becoming black and blank and all those things. But it was very well handled, timely help came, and the presentations could go on really well. Thank you very much. Thank you for the entire team.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the management director, I would like to thank all the participants for attending this session and also making this webinar a great success. The feedback link has been provided in the chat box. I request all of you to kindly fill the feedback link so that certification will not be a problem. Once we receive the feedback form, within 48 hours, we will revert back with the certificates. Thanks a lot. Logging off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.